We're glad you're here. Now, let me tell you something. When I was Lieutenant Governor of Arkansas, I became the governor because the governor was forced to resign because of felony convictions, and that elevated me to the office of governor. And we fought the corruption that had infected the state. We saw about 17 legislators and other high officials indicted, tried, and convicted. It got so bad at one point that the most feared words for an Arkansas politician were these: "Will the defendant please rise?" In fact, 2 inmates in their cell at one of our state prisons were talking one day. One of them said to the other, "You know, the food was better in here when you were the governor." And if you ask a politician how many years he served, he would respond, "You mean in office or in prison?" Yeah, public corruption is disgusting and it's demoralizing. But since the beginning of our nation, we've had to deal with public officials who betrayed the people's trust, whether it was Benedict Arnold, Richard Nixon, Bill Clinton. And through it all, our country continues due to a Constitution and our being a people of laws and not a mere country of men. We can and we have survived corruption. But there are 3 things we can't live with. Number 1, we cannot have a judicial system that isn't even-handed and which delivers justice in any way other than a blind adherence to truth and law. Because if our system of justice treats some people differently than others, we'll create bitterness and anger in our citizenry that'll lead to a revolt. The law has to be applied even-handedly, whether a person is rich, poor, black, white, or brown. As a governor, I saw some cases come before me in which a young black kid from the projects who had a public defender might be sentenced to prison for several years. But a white kid from a gated community whose parents could afford a great lawyer, well, they got probation, community service, and an expunged record. The black kid's life was ruined. And because of the felony conviction, he couldn't even get a job emptying a bedpan in a nursing home. But the affluent white kid would go into college, get a law degree, and of course, run for office. Now, we can't survive, secondly, as a country, if law enforcement abuses their power by weaponizing the laws to punish their enemies and reward their friends. Now, there was a great controversy over the firing of Assistant FBI Director Andrew McCabe. The fact is, he was fired by the Attorney General because the Independent Office of Professional Responsibility recommended it due to his leaking and his lying. General Mike Flynn, even Martha Stewart were convicted and jailed for less than that. Lois Lerner of the IRS admitted that they treated pro-life, pro-Israel, and conservative groups differently than other groups, yet she just retired with full benefits and walked scot-free. Former FBI Director Jim Comey stated publicly that Hillary Clinton had destroyed federal records, played loose with top-secret material, then shared that information with people without the proper clearances. At the same time, a young sailor in the Navy went to prison for way less than that. Now, number 3, we can't survive without a free and responsible press. The First Amendment is not just necessary for the media, but for all of us. We need a free press that accurately and honestly reports the facts of what our government is up to. The media's role is to observe and report and let the public interpret what those facts mean. But if they're biased, they aren't just bad journalists. They're destroying trust in our society. We can elect and then defeat politicians. And when they're corrupted, we can replace them. But if our courts, our cops, and the media operate outside the law and the truth, then our great republic will collapse. As much as I detest corruption in elected, employed, or appointed people, hey, we can purge the bad and move forward. But if our foundations of justice and journalism crack, crumble, and collapse, we are headed for the dustbin of history.